All right, welcome everybody. My name is Efren Luna, and I'm a member here at the Cultural Alliance of Long Beach. We have been doing art classes for the community, free classes for the community for many years here in downtown Long Beach, California. Today is a different situation. We are not open to the public due to the health situation. And a lot of the children are at home. They're not in school, and pretty much all the non-essential jobs are not they're not supposed to be out there. It's just me today, so everyone can stay safe at home. But we have technology, and this is our first time experimenting with this live classes. A lot of times we're recording live, but this is a first attempt at actually guiding you through a drawing class, an art class. We usually do like sculptures, small paintings, and things like that, like masks. That requires a little bit of material like aluminum foil, tape, glue, hot glue gun, which we have all that here, but it's very unlikely you'll have all that at home. So I decided to start you with something small. Anyways, before I begin, I just want to make this announcement as well that like art is a health, mental health for a lot of people, including myself, and that's how I see it. It's without art, I don't think I would be here. So in a sense, art is it keeps me personally. It's kept me going in this world. In these difficult times, a lot of people need to continue their creative outlet. So, in my opinion, in my experience, the arts are an essential job. And I understand the health concerns, and we're playing by the rules. No one's here. You're at your home, and you're welcome to participate. Share this video. I know I'm talking quite a little bit, but I want to wait a little bit till more people get here. Does it show we have people there? It's showing we have people, and people are gonna keep on coming along. In any case, the video will stay there and it will continue. So I'll get to the drawing part. The drawing part, we've decided to do a drawing technique that is really goes way back. And back here you can see a sample of a drawing in progress and of a finished side of the painting. And this was done using a grid technique. Grid, if you're an artist out there watching, this is nothing new, but this is geared towards the community. So yes, this is a grid technique. Is basically using up an image and making a grid of squares, small squares, on the image itself, and then scaling those to a larger number on a larger canvas, or even the same size. It's a way to transfer an image. And I chosen this image because it gives people like pretty good results. If you're the most challenging part is making the grid. It's a little bit of mathematics involved. So we'll start one of those projects. And another reason why I decided to focus on this, at home you just need a pencil, a sharpened pencil with an eraser, and a paper, a blank paper. If you don't have white paper, you can use lined paper. We'll give you more assignments. We have this is all you need, and a ruler. If you don't have a ruler, not to worry, use a straight edge and do your best to maybe set up a measuring system, but I'll guide you through the process. So we're here for an hour, maybe 2 hours. And I'm going to use this sketchbook that we have here. Here's a sketchbook. It's just regular sketchbook. And this is where we're going to do our drawing today. I was looking through some of the books that we have that were donated to us here. And here's a great image. I don't have a printer available at the moment, and everything's closed. So I'm going to actually use this image itself here. If I don't know if you can see it, this is actually great. It's an inventor's list. This is an image of George Washington Carver. He is an inventor, and according to this book, it says he invented ink and soap. And here are some of the nature's products that he used to so that's the image. I'm gonna do a work on a portrait. So I'm gonna write on this image itself. I'm gonna make a grid, and I'll walk you through the process. And on this blank paper or sketchbook, I'm gonna make another grid, maybe larger, maybe a little bit different size, but it's gonna be in the same ratio, meaning that whatever enlargement I do to the squares, it's gonna be the same enlargement for each square. And you'll see what I mean once I get started. So I'll get started. We focus the camera down here for a little bit. There we go. I have my daughter here monitoring the camera. Thank you for helping me. So if you have a ruler, so maybe it's backwards, but I need to see this. So I'm gonna make little squares, right? So I'll probably, considering this image, 1 inch squares are probably gonna be too large for this particular image, because I forgot to mention, but basically you copy square by square once you have your grid on the image and then on the paper. So I'll demonstrate, and I'm gonna draw straight up on this image. So this image is actually 7.5 inches. Now, if you don't have an image at home and you're probably watching and trying to get something, you can actually look at your phone. So you focus on me. Yeah. Okay, so you can look at your phone or your tablet, and a lot of times you can add a grid on there. If you go to the edit or the camera feature, you can add a grid. But I can't use my phone and record and draw at the same time from there. So I'm gonna go old school with the actual paper, but the idea is the same. This, you can do it by looking at a gridded image on a phone and a tablet and a computer, but I'm gonna do it right here on this page. So I'm gonna mark off 1/2 inch because that's small enough where I can actually copy tiny squares. And I don't know if you can see me. You can see me over there pretty good. All right. So right now I'm marking off the 1/2 inch on the first side of this square. And then this other square is actually, let's see. Well, actually, if I use all the white, okay, this is great. Actually, it's 1/2 inch. I got lucky with this image. It's actually a big square. So all I'm doing is going to break it down into smaller squares and maybe just select the part of the image that I want to draw, and I'll guide you through that. So I've added sections. I don't know if you can see there, but I'm pointing here with my pencil. There's little sections on this side. There's sections or marked off measurements of 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do the same on this other end. Let's see, here we go. All right, here. Yeah, so this technique is very useful. Like, you can actually, like, if you do a drawing on a sketchbook and you wanted to transfer it onto a mural, you could do that. Same process. I actually did a mural for a continuation school in Los Angeles inside the classroom, which was really interesting. This is before there was Facebook and I didn't get images, but this is a great technique to make murals. It keeps the what do you call it? The not perspective, the proportion. So there's a lot of terminology in the arts. Proportion refers to a lot of like is it the right size? So this one of the advantages of this style is that it keeps the proportions pretty good. What does that mean? That means that you're not gonna have one longer arm or one bigger eyeball. It pretty much it's kind of like a carbon copy without using tracing paper. So I don't know if you can see there, but I'm pointing to the little sections. I I'm starting my grid process, and I'm going to use a very sharpened pencil. Here we go. So I'm just gonna go at it. Let me see. I might have made a mistake on the measurements. So before I do the lines, I want to double check. And yes, I actually screwed this one up. All right. So I have to remark it. Okay, no problem. Here you go. Half inch. Half inch. Yeah, so that was totally wrong. So focus. So basically I'm doing 1/2 inch squares on this image. They're small enough to copy, but they're not too small, so that's actually good. Okay, so that's better. So then you just match the lines. There you go. All right, so I'm making vertical lines. Can you see over there what I'm doing? Okay, so I am making vertical lines, and they're all measured. They're not slanted. They're actually vertical in relationship to the image. They're vertical. Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna do the horizontal lines, and that'll leave me a nice grid. All right. And actually, I have a story to share while I'm doing these lines. As many of you may know, I did live painting at a lot of the local festivals here throughout the years. And one time I took my son to the Shoreline Jam at the Queen Mary. And he was there with me the whole day. We were there for the whole day of the festival. We were working there doing live art. And he's like, "Dad, can I actually use the grid and make a painting?" I told him, "Yes, I have the material." So I set him up, and he ended up doing an image of Jimi Hendrix. And, it took him the whole day to do it. People were stopping by. And at the end of the day, he sold it. Like this lady liked it. There's an image there on the social media. And my son was very thrilled, like, "Oh, this is great." So this technique is really great to copy images. And, once you paint them, you add your own flavor. I don't know if you can see there, but I'll hold it up to the camera. Can you see the lines on there? Maybe. Okay, so I done vertical lines on the image that are 1/2 inch. Now, if your image is bigger, it doesn't have to be 1/2 inch. The idea is that we make squares, right? And we're gonna make other squares on the actual drawing paper. They may be bigger, but it's gonna be a ratio. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. So I'm done with the vertical part of this drawing. Okay, or actually of this grid. I haven't started the drawing. And this is mathematics. This is math. There's this thing called ratios, right? Like 1-to-1, or 1-to-1 is a precise ratio, right? If I was to do a 1-to-1 ratio, it would be I would be copying the same exact image. Maybe I should do that, right? I don't know if, depending on the room that I have here, I'll decide how big am I going to make the images, or actually the squares. So I haven't decided that. And I'm actually starting everything from scratch. Okay. There we go. And if you're making comments on the live feed, I'm sorry I can't read them just yet, but if you do, you're welcome to. Yeah, this is the, like a lot of patience. So while I'm drawing this, if you want to join us, go ahead and find you a blank paper if you can find one. Blank paper is fine, considering, the situation where just get what you can, just drawing paper, a pencil with an eraser, because we need to erase here and there. That's part of the drawing, Erasing is very essential. very essential to the drying process, you know. And let's see what else we have here. Okay, let's see. Gotta slow down here. There we go. Almost done. There we go. Right here. All right, so I'll show you this, and you can actually see a nice grid right on this image. Does it show there? Nice gridded image. Nice gridded image, right? And you can see I kind of went over, and I don't think I'm gonna need all of this, right? But the grid, the part of the grid that I'm gonna use is where the image is. That's the part of the grid that I'm gonna use. But I needed to draw the way through just to keep the precision of the squares, so that they wouldn't be like slanted, you know, so kind of keeping the vertical lines vertical, the horizontal lines horizontal, because that's gonna be very important when I transfer that grid, or when I make a grid here. The grids need to be precise. All right, so this is actually great. George Washington Carver invented ink and soap, right? So this is my choice of drawing. You could also choose like photography, landscapes, things like that. All right, so now it's time to analyze how many square of the images do I need. Really, I need one. Let's see, from the head to the bottom, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Vertically, I need at least 11 squares because, you know, the background, I don't need it, and I'm not concerned to copy it exactly. So I just need the portrait part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11 squares vertical from the farthest end of the image to from end to end, okay? And let's count the horizontal part. So let me make a note here on my other paper. 11 squares, or half-inch squares vertical, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have 14 horizontally. This means that our image is wider at the bottom versus the length of the vertical part. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, 14. That way I'll cover the end of the shoulder. So I have 11 by 14. Now, this paper itself is, let's see, 12 inches by 18. I can probably, if I go 1 inch squares, I have enough. I believe I do, yes, because I can put 11 here and I can put 14 on the long side. So I'll do that. I'll make the drawing, the image, actually, I'll make it 1 inch. Basically, the ratio is gonna be ½ inch, and your measurement on your drawing might be different. Now, if your parents watching and, you know, they're pretty good at math, or, I mean, just, they can help you a little bit with the math part of this. The idea is that, for instance, this little squares are ½ inch squares. Okay, you don't want to make like rectangles here, like ½ inch by 1 inch. That'll distort the image and it'll elongate it sideways or up and down, and we don't want that. We want to keep the proportion, right? So these are ½ inch by ½ inch, okay? And I have enough room on the blank paper to do 1 inch by 1 inch. So basically, I'm gonna enlarge this image. I'm gonna enlarge it double, or you know, I'm gonna double the size of the image by making a grid of 11 squares by 14 that are 1 inch square each. Okay, I don't want to bore you too much with the math, but I have to point that out because having taught this lesson like in the school systems, if they don't follow the proper ratio, the image doesn't look right. And then you spend all this time making all this grid, and now your image doesn't look right. Now you got to start again or remake the grid, and now you probably want to start on a new paper because you already wrote all over the place. So it's very important, okay? Very important to keep the ratios the right way. Okay, so I can do 14 inches vertical and 11 inches. And then let me get the ruler out. Okay. I have so many rulers trying to figure out the one with the best edge. Okay, this one's great. This one's great. All right, so if you're joining us, if you're just joining us, we are making a grid drawing. We're making a grid drawing. Considering you don't have, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but it's hard to go outside and get materials for our regular projects, which are the sculptures that I'll probably show you samples later on. But right now, let me focus on the project at hand. So let me see. I gotta focus here. Okay, so I have 12. Okay, so I have let's see, 11. Actually, 12 by 18 is the size of this, and then okay. So this is 12 inches. I can actually go 11 inches. Right, so I'll mark off the section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Let me just make sure these rulers have a lot of little lines, so you got to make sure you mark on the right marking, because if you're off by a little bit, that little square is going to be a little bit smaller on one end. So this part is very critical that we get it right. Okay, so let me do the side. So the side is going to be 14 inches. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so let's see. 10, 11, 12. I need 2 more inches. I need 14 on this side. So I'll mark off 2 more inches. 13, 14. There we go. Okay, so I have a little bit more to mark off. So let me see. Okay, I have 12 inches here. Let's see. Okay, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's see, 12, right there, 13, 14. Okay, so now, let's see. Now I'm going to okay, so we said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I only need 11, so I'll have an extra square, and that's okay. That's okay. There we go. Okay, so now this part of the paper I'm not gonna draw on. I probably should have put it in the middle, but just for the lesson's purpose, I'm gonna simplify this. A lot of times you wanna put the images in the middle because your sketchbook is kind of like your presentation. But right now we're practicing, right? I mean, we'll get to that point later. So now it's time to connect the dots. So, there's a lot of, like a game, right? Connect the dots, right? Or I can draw squares on the entire paper and then just decide which part of the paper I want to draw. See? So that's what I like about art. It's a problem solving. That's what we do here at the gallery with our projects. We have parent and children, and we encourage. I like to say we require, but we can't really force anybody to do anything. But we tell people that show up A lot of times the parents say, I'm just here to watch. And I say, no, everybody does work here, and they say, okay. And then I say, you don't have to, but, we do like for parents and children to work, because a lot of times the parent helps the child, and then the child helps the parent, like, oh, this goes like that, or, and it's very, like, essential for the parent and children to bond and also solve problems, right? Art, it has all of those qualities: problem solving, creativity. We take it for granted a lot of times, but it has more qualities. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast, for me, it's like part of my health, right? This is what's been essential to help me become who I am, and I know a lot of folks out there have a similar story. So you can see here, I have gridded, or marked off the horizontal lines. I marked up the horizontal lines, and maybe I should mark the whole paper, because I do want to put him in the middle, because I might add a background in the future, and I want to leave that possibility open. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark off the rest of the page. This way I'll have a better option of setting my image right in the center. I like to put it in the center. I don't have any plans to add another image here, and maybe it'll give me room to play with the background for other lessons. Anyway, so let's see, let's start marking this thing off. So a lot of times I'm using the ruler backwards, and that's okay, as long as you're marking off the measurements, all right, the precise measurements. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna actually complete the horizontal lines all the way up. This will give me more of an option. So if you still haven't joined us, you're just watching, you can grab a paper or create an image. I know it's hard to maybe get an image right now, but if you have like an old book, old magazines laying out there, we have several books here, and I've chosen this image here, to use as my source for my reference. But you're welcome to, if you have images at home. And as I mentioned, you can actually get an image on your phone, and there's like features on the editing where you can put a grid, take a screenshot, and you have your squares. That's kind of like a good idea, too, if you don't have images. So now, let's see. Actually, since this ruler doesn't go all the way, I'm gonna divide the markings. I'm gonna divide the markings from the middle part. And I'm making a grid of 1 inch square. That means every little square, it's gonna be 1 inch from each side, right? The original image that I'm copying for, I put a 1/2 inch square, just because the image is smaller. The image is smaller, and it'll help me copy each square better, right? If I made a lot of people, they just do a quadrant, which is basically a 4 square, and then the rest they freehand it. And some folks, the more experience you get, you don't use any grid. Like when I went to art school here in Long Beach, at Cal State Long Beach, the life drawing classes, there's a live person, a model. They sit there under some lighting, and you just draw them. And the idea is to try to capture the reality, or the real image on the spot, and that's very, very challenging. So you get to do that a lot. And when you're doing that, you're also measuring, you're extending, you're using your pencil, and you close one eye and you look at the object you're drawing, and you measure this way, right? You do that, and the idea is that the object you're drawing or the person, they stay put in the same under the same lighting and standing circumstances, and you measure. You measure, and the crazy thing is that our brain, or our I guess our idea of things, is different than the reality we see. And that's what one of the things that I've learned doing live drawing. A lot of times we're drawing from a live model, and we start to draw certain parts of the body different, or the face, we start to draw it more facing us, but maybe the person's turning a little bit to the left, and those things are important, so it's basically training to see. And how does that relate to real life? Well, a lot of times we go with our first impressions and we react on the spot, and sometimes things are a little bit more complex, and if we slow down a little bit, we can actually see things in a different light, consider different aspects. So art helps you do all that. A lot of times, art is kind of like, a lot of people don't think it's science, but there's a science aspect to it too. There's a lot of art is kind of related to a lot of the fields. If you are a child, you're watching us, I know, one of the things that I remember as a child was watching the Ninja Turtles, right? The Ninja Turtles. And I actually learned how to draw the Ninja Turtles. Maybe I'll do that in a later episode. But that was just from memory, but it's all basic shapes. Anyways, the reason why I mentioned that is because as I went on to study art, then I realized that a lot of the Renaissance artists' names, or actually the name of the Ninja Turtles, are actual names of Renaissance artists from Italy, from a few hundred years ago. Michelangelo, he carved out the David, right? Michelangelo's Ninja Turtle, right? Raphael was another Renaissance artist, and there's a Ninja Turtle name like that. Leonardo and Donatello. So Leonardo da Vinci, right, known for the Mona Lisa. This guy was an inventor, right? So drawing was essential, and he would carve up or just use up bodies to draw the parts, which later became essential to medicine and science. And he had inventions. He was drawing like helicopter-like machines and things that were never really made, but like the idea of it was created. Like drones. Now we got drones. Anyways, not to get too much of the subject, but here are the two papers, right? Here's the image, 1/2 inch square, and here's the blank one, 1 inch square. Now, I decided that I have 11 inches, or not 11 squares from top of the head to the bottom of the image, and I have 14 inches from the shoulder to shoulder. So on the bottom part, I'm going to need 14 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I think I messed up, huh? Or how can I solve that? So again, this is problem solving, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 squares, but I need 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, the way I can solve that is by inverting the page. So I have more on this side. So you can quickly saw how I solve that. Once you do these projects more, then you become good at like ratios, right? So over here I have what is this, 20? Anyways, this is more than I need, right? But I only need 14. And I do have 11 to go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Actually, I have an extra one. And I'll probably leave that on the top. So that blank one, this top one, I'm not going to use. Because I only need 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to use up to here. I don't know if you can see over there, but I'm cutting off one line here. This is going to be the top of the image. And I need 14 squares, so maybe what's half of 14? 7. So now I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I do 7 here, and maybe 7 on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 on this side. I'm gonna make this darker. Actually, I'm gonna number it, because that's another thing, right? Now that I've selected, I don't know if you can see there, but I'm gonna number the squares. You can see that over there on the camera. Okay, so point over here, move. You can't move it that way. Okay, I'll move the paper this way. Okay, that's better. Okay, so right here I'm gonna put a 1, 2. These squares are not gonna be used. Just kind of cancel them out. So 2 squares on this side are not gonna be used, or 2 lines of squares, and 1 line of squares on the top is not gonna be used. But I did this so I can have room to work on the background and maybe create something. And then I have 2 rows here that I'm gonna discard. Yeah, and you can see this takes a little while to do. All right, so I did say I was gonna number them, and usually you don't wanna press too hard on the marking. It's just kind of lightly, because you're gonna erase all that. You don't wanna leave evidence, right? I mean, you're welcome to if you want to, but you know, these are your tools, you know. Okay, so this is actually a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I have 14 squares going this way. And I don't know, can you see over here as well? Okay, so over here, I'm not gonna put numbers. Over here, I'm gonna put letters, right? So this square is gonna be 1A, and this one's gonna be 1B, right? So over here, I'll put the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Forgot my alphabet. Help me out, Yada. A, B, C, D. I gotta do the song, right? For the children out there. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, H. My daughter's over there laughing. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. You see why I went into the arts. Language is not my strength, but I can communicate, right? So we have numbers. We have 1 through 14, and then A through K. So the way this is gonna work, every square is gonna have a name. Because here's what the problem is: if you draw on the wrong square, it's kind of like creating a puzzle and putting the piece in the wrong place. Like, it fits because they're all squares, but it's not gonna look good, right? So it's kind of like a square puzzle, right? But we label it. So we got 1A, 1B. So and this one will be 2A, 2B, and so forth. You match the number and the letter, and that's the name of the square. So if I want to know the name of this square, that'll be 10F. 10F. And guess what I'm gonna do over here? What do you think? I'm used to teaching in the schools, so I ask the students sometimes, and you know, they talk to me, but no one's here except my daughter, and she's got enough work doing the camera over there. So on this side, I'm gonna do the same thing, right? So I'm gonna do what did I put for the horizontal? Numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're still alive over there? Yes. Okay, good. And then I'll put it on the side over here because it's very dark on this background, and I have pencil, so it won't stand out. So I'll do it over here. This is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. I'm cheating. I'm looking over here. H, I, J, K. All right, so good. Whew, this is you have to focus, you know, and I don't want to just draw and not talk, because you know, I feel like I can share things while I'm doing this. So maybe let me put this close to the camera. Can you see this over there on the camera? So we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's the same thing I have here, right? 1, 2, can you see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. And I have the same, I only drew it on this side because I can see, but it's still on the vertical side. So the letters, the alphabet is on the vertical side, the numbers are horizontal. And that's very important. You want to keep the same thing. So off to drawing now. So if the grid is right, then we're just going to match the squares. All right, so it might look like a lot of work, but guess what? I don't have to draw anything right here. So squares that are going to be empty, they're already finished per se, right? Just like, can you put the camera over here for Gigi's mural or portrait that Yayo did here? So if you notice, I don't know if you can see there, but there's grid markings here, and he doesn't have to worry about these markings because his image is only on this part. And that's what we're gonna do. We're not going to focus on the lines that are not necessary, right? So we'll just, like, he didn't mark it because he's been doing this for a long time. Yayo is an art educator. Shout out to Yayo if you're watching us over or will watch us later. But we're using his painting as an example, as a finished product of a grid project. So he didn't mark it, but he knew which square was which square, right? So you can see this square didn't get drawn on, this one didn't get drawn. So only the ones that that he needed, he used. And there's no traces of it, it's just cover, I have to finish my side. I'm working on Kobe Bryant, about to shoot a free throw or take some kind of shot. But you'll see this. I'll probably do a live feed about that. So now I'm gonna get to drawing, right? So looking at my, can you focus on the paper now? Now, there you go. Can you see the image of George Washington Carver? Okay, great. So now I'm gonna actually name the squares that I'm gonna be using. And I'm gonna start at the top, right? So at the top I have, what do I have here? Let's see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5, number 5, letter A. So I'm gonna go to number 5, letter A. That means the first one. So, wait, 5, letter, yes, that's it right here, boom. So I don't know if you can see my two hands. So I have, this is 5A and this is 5A. So I'm gonna actually label that right here, 5A, right, 5A, 5A. So I'm gonna need 5A, actually it's down here, 5A. Okay, so 5A, 5, 6, excuse me, I'm counting backwards, 6A. So I need 5A, 6A, and 7A, and 8A. So I need 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the top row. I'm just marking it off so I don't get confused, right? Another idea would be just to shade in the ones you're not gonna use. You're like, okay, I'm not gonna use this square. Just kind of give it a little shade, and you're kind of blocking it, right? That's actually a great idea, so you can say, okay, I don't need this one. I don't need that one. Can you see what I'm doing over there? Okay, good. So you see, I don't need this square, so, you can just kind of shade them in, right? I am going to need a little bit of this square of 4A. Okay, so, but I'll get to that. That's a little detail. And then I'm going to need this square, right? This one. So you're kind of eliminating, right? Okay. But let me just focus on the drawing. I think I've been doing a lot of the technical stuff and the 5A. So I'm going to focus on 5A, which is this little square. I don't know if you can, should I get closer to the camera? Yeah, how's that? Can you see a little bit better? I'm going to put it like this so I can see. Yeah, how's that? Okay, so I'm going to copy this little square to right here. And if I was to ignore, there's another thing you can do that helps out. You can just cut out like make a little square, right? I don't know, let's see if I can have enough papers here. So I'm kind of isolating that square because a lot of times when we let me get some scissors so I can cut out the image. All right, so a lot of times when we're looking at a portrait, we let our brain start to dictate what things look like. What does that mean? That like brain thinks it knows everything in the world, right? So it'll start drawing like this is how a head looks, this is how an eye looks, this is how, and you know, and that's a problem, you know. In fact, I'm gonna get a little tape and we're gonna make this. This is called like a viewfinder kind of thing. These are all techniques, and you don't have to use this, like blocking off the squares, but it really helps. It really helps to isolate the image and focus on one square at a time, because that's the idea. You draw one tiny square at a time. I know Johanna, I talked to her yesterday. She's one of our members here. And I don't know if she's watching, but she may watch the transmission later. And she was asking about how do you keep the ratio the same, you know, and basically you multiply, and that's the math part. And I didn't want to get too much into it, but this is important, right? So basically you multiply. So I made it bigger. So basically I double, I multiply times 2. I want a ½ inch times 2. What's ½ inch times 2? Have one square, right? You got times 2. That's 2 of them, right? Or you multiply, you double, right? Or that would be 1/2 actually. So working, because actually when you multiply by fractions, you're actually dividing, right? So basically the 1 inch becomes a ½ inch because you're multiplying by a half. So then, okay, here we go. So here is my image. Let me see. I was already on the wrong image. If I didn't take this out, and it looked different. So that's why it's good to verify. I put a little mark there so I can see. Okay, so ½ inch right there. Can you see that? I don't know if you can zoom in on there. Can you zoom in a little bit? It's hard, huh? Is it blurry? No, okay. Just not just enough so people can see the idea. Okay, what I did to my very great pencil. Okay, I like this pencil. Okay. So I'm just going to copy that square. Let's see, what do we have here? That's it. That's all there is to it. The background, I don't know if I want to make it that dark, but I probably should, because that's going to help me. You know what? The idea is to copy as you see, right? Then you make decisions later. So let me make that darker. Another thing that I didn't do, because I didn't have the time or material considering the situation, you can Xerox the image in a black and white, and that's already translating. So I didn't mention, right, what I'm doing. I'm translating the color into black and white, and that's also a challenge. You know, that you're gonna have to use your own judgment as to how to do that part. Another technique is you Xerox this, or you just print it in from your computer black and white, and then you make the image black and white. And that'll help you use the pencil better. You know, that's another technique that artists used. Now, I didn't invent any of this. You know, this is techniques that I learned studying art. So I'm just going to copy the image. I think I need to erase a little bit, and it's okay. You know, erase a little bit. There we go. And then there's pretty much shading here. This image, if I was to look at a giant frame of this, it just looks like a line, right? I don't see that it's someone's head or anything like that, right? Okay, so I gotta look at this again. See the angle, it's not a straight line, it's kind of like curved and it goes up. There you go. And then another technique is you blur your eyes and then you kind of see the shades. If you know, you blur your eyes so you can kind of see the darks and the lights, it'll help you. And that's what I'm doing here. Now that blurring the eyes technique, you can use that for life drawing or drawing from an object in real life. Okay, so we have that image there. You know, other artists, so they don't smudge the paper, they use like some kind of lever or something so they can rest their hand on there, not to mess up the paper, you know, things like this. Okay, so I got the drawing part pretty much done. It's gonna shade a little more. And because it's a hairline, it's darker at the top, but actually the background is darker, so I'll make the background darker. And I'm kind of spilling over the other squares, but I'm not worried about that. I can fix that later. That's not part of the image. This is just shading, 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 shading. And everything is pretty much a shade. The bottom is a little bit lighter, but there's a clear cut right here, and I need to make that darker so you can see the difference. There you go. Now you can tell the difference. So that's it. That's our first square. So we got to do 14 of those vertical, and we just got to keep going, right? Let's see. Okay, since this is a neighboring one, I'll just do, or it's right next to it, I'll just do this. I'll just look at it at that. Well, it's just a tiny bit part. Can you see that right there? So I'm drawing this part of the head. It's just a tiny bit, and it might even be smaller than what I selected here. So all I gotta do is, I'm drawing the background. See, a lot of artists, like myself, I like to focus on the entire image. So, you know, I'm drawing the background now. And that's just gonna help me focus on on the foreground or the image. And you know, other artists might focus on other parts. They might just do the line work, you know. I guess with my training and all that, I enjoy the shading. So I couldn't resist and just shade it, you know. I couldn't resist. So I have 2 squares finished. Well, you know, there's nothing is always finished there. You can always do more, you know. So that was 4A. That was square 4A. So I have 2 squares in progress. And I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to try to follow like adjacent squares that are next to each other. And so the next one will be 3A. No, not A. That's B. 3A. Right here. Or actually, let me verify that. No, we are 5A. Okay, let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, yes, 5A, 4A. Yes, 4A. So that this will be 4B. 4B. So this square, and I'm going to block it off so you can see. So right now, my mind tells me just draw the eyeballs, skip all this process, and I'm resisting that urge to just go freestyle. So that's why I have this technique to force me to focus in small parts, right? Now this technique is different than life drawing, like I said, you know. This is totally different. This is not, okay. So I've isolated that image right there. All right, anybody, you can leave us your comments there if you like. There's comments. Okay, so I don't know if my daughter wants to help me read those out. She's a little bit shy, so I'll read those out later. But thank you guys for watching. I'm going to continue this. Continue this drawing. You know, if you're at home, you want to join us, you can go grab pencil with an eraser, like this one, right? And a ruler, paper, and a reference, an image. You know, old newspaper, old magazine. You know, anything that you can mark on. You can use an electronic device. That gets a little tricky, but why not? You know, you can. If you have the laptop next to you, you can, or the desktop, you can actually use an image there and put a grid. You know, on the paint tool, you can put a grid system. Or anyway, so you want to read some of the comments there? No? Okay, my daughter's doing enough just moving the camera around for me, and I appreciate that. But I'll read those comments later, and I know this is not what we normally do here. As far as like the assignment, you know, we work on. Would you bring me some of the sculptures? We normally work on sculptures for parents and children. If you're at home and you're watching us and you've been to this class and you have the material to continue the sculptures that we've been working on, go ahead and do so. You know, like these are some of the samples. Can you see those there? These are some of the samples, yes. Like tiny sculptures. We use aluminum foil for the core body to shape the body parts, cardboard pieces. We put them together with a hot glue gun. We tape over the aluminum foil to cover the aluminum foil. Then we use paper mache, which is basically watered down glue. Some people use like flour, but the flour will, like the animals will eat your sculpture because flour is a food. So, and this is, Tony is the teacher for this usually, and I cover for him when he's not doing this. So shout out to Tony. Thank you for helping us out. If you're a parent and you have your sculpture with you in progress, and this is not the first time, continue to work at home. You know, stay busy, stay focused. It's good for you and for your children, for the whole family. Just start making sculptures. If you have the material. If you don't have the material, you can do a drawing like I'm doing right now. And that's why I chose the drawing, because most people watching us are probably not gonna have the the masking tape, hot glue gun. You know, some of you guys may already have that, but not everybody. So chances are most students out there have a pencil and paper and maybe a ruler. And if you don't have a ruler, you can do your best to do measurements. You know, if you do a small square and you want to double it, just make sure you mark it off and you double it precisely. It doesn't have to be half an inch, but as long as the squares are in the same ratio. You don't need to know the measurement. You can fold the paper in half and you can double that size, right? So this is where creativity comes in. All right, so now I'm gonna continue drawing here. Yes, okay. So we have some comments there, and I want to appreciate you for your commenting. Thank you very much. If you're watching us, thank you for joining us. This is a very technical drawing, but also like something you can do at home, you know. A lot of you guys are out at home right now, young seniors and adults, teenagers. You know, this is something you can do, you know, and it'll help you pass time and focus on something else other than what's happening, you know. So let me see. There's another square. Okay, so this is the next square. Yeah, right about here. So that little square. Oh, and then Johanna had asked about when squares get difficult, you can do a smaller grid within that square. What do I mean by that? Like if this image was difficult to do, I can cut that in 4 pieces and then do the same to the image I'm drawing, and then just take it at a smaller scale. It's kind of like what the computers do. They do pixels, right? They basically, if you zoom in, like you use Photoshop or something like that, and you zoom into the images, you can actually see the pixels, right? They're little squares, they're color squares. And what's interesting about those squares is that And that's another thing, color theory, you know, the colors change the color depending on what color's next to them. But we're not, and I changed pencils because this pencil was different. And that's something I didn't talk about, but this is an HB pencil and this is a 2 pencil. They're slightly different. This one's lighter and this one's darker. Now, if you were at home and you happen to have pencils for drawing, they kind of look like this. This is a 4B. This is a 2H2, HB2. The smaller the number, the thinner they are, like the lighter they are, and the darker, like this 4, what is this? Yeah, this 4B is really soft and it gives darker shading, and that's good for shading. I just wanted to point that out. If you have that, hey, this is a good project to use your pencils, your your drawing pencils, you know. So right now I'm just copying square by square. Yeah, this is a lengthy process. All right. Like, I want to rush through so I can show you something, but at the same time I want to show you something decent, you know. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so this part is basically, this is the hair, and it just gets, okay, I'll erase the lighter part. Let's do that. I made a choice to just shade, and then later on I'll erase. What's great about this image is that it's like an old photograph and the shades are already done for me, right? So it's kind of easier per se in that sense. But life drawing is much more difficult, way more difficult, at least for me, you know. And I think mostly everyone I knew had a similar experience. All right, so moving on to the next square. This would be 7A. Yep, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh man, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I already made a mistake. Or did I? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just have to shift my image a little more. And that's why I made a point about marking this squares, right? So this was actually 6, 8. You know what? I think it's okay because we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I already drew 1, 2, 3 squares. I would have to erase all 3 squares. So here's what I mean by problem solving. Now you make a choice, right? Now you say, okay, do I erase the squares? Right? Do I erase the squares and move everything one side over? But that's why I gave myself enough room. Remember in the beginning that I was going to draw at the edge, and I probably would have less chance to move things around, right? But as I found out, this square that I'm pointing at is actually 6A, not 5A. So that means that I drew, but that's okay. What I can reassign the squares. For example, this is my 1. I would just slide one line over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let's see. 5A. Let's see. 5A. Let's see, 1. All right. Let me figure this out. See, that's what I mean now. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5A. 5A and 6A, 7A, 8. So basically, I moved everything over once. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, there you go. Good thing I have enough room here. So now I'm okay. I had 2 squares or 2 lines of squares to spare here and 2 lines of square to spare here. So doing that, being that I'm doing this for the class and I want to show you progress and not just, go back and do it all over again and lose your viewership or your interest, I'll move over once, okay? But in the future, I'm gonna double check that. So now I learned something, right? But I had room to spare over here. So what I did is I moved over once and now I solved that. So that's what I mean about problem solving, right? Like, yeah, if you do this often, I don't usually work and it's not an excuse, but I don't usually work the grid myself, only like when I'm doing live events most of the time. But I try to just do freehand. So, so let's see, 1. Okay, so now the numbers are matching. I just continue, right? So I have 5A, okay, 8, 8, 8, yep, right here. Let's see, Make sure I got the right square, yep, right there. And this part, actually the top of the head is very easy. Maybe I should move a little faster so you can see a little bit of progress. It's just once I isolate the square, it's just like a line, just like a line. Just a line. Just a line. Yep. All right. Let's see, that line, it kind of comes down more, so I'll shade this part. I'm drawing the background too. I didn't think I was going to, but I did want to start, I wanted to do the shading as I went along. So that kind of pushed me to not just work on the line work. But that's okay. You can just do the line work if you like and then come back and do the shading, but I'm doing 2 at the same time. The line work, it's kind of like, I'm focusing on the shading, so that's why I also have to shade the background. All right, let's see. The next square down. Yeah, this one right here. Kind of goes like this. Yep. And it takes time, this is one of the things with art that I found out with art and music when we're learning that, like in my experience, and just like being here at the gallery, a lot of times like people want to make something right away, and it's challenging because it takes a little while, Like some people want the image to be done right away, but it takes time, It takes time. I mean, some artists work really fast, and that's their craft, that's their niche, at working fast, But it's like everything in life, This is like your own expression, so you may work slowly, faster, and that's okay. With the guitar classes that we're gonna do tomorrow, or music classes, the same thing. Some people, they learn faster, others learn slower. But the key thing is perseverance, patience, and you'll learn. You'll get something out of it, because that's the key thing. There we go. I don't know if you can see over there, and I'll remove this part, but the top of the head is already kind of coming along. You see that? You see that over there? Yara, can you see that on the camera there? Okay, so you can see, maybe I should pick them up a little bit, just to pick up the camera a little bit. So you can see I've worked on the top part of the drawing. It's kind of like a puzzle, right? Like a puzzle. You can see both, yeah? More this way. How's that? So you can see I made it larger. These are 1/2 inch squares, and the white paper is 1 inch squares. And that's my grid. I'm gonna continue this. I don't know what time we have. Can you check the time for me, Yara? All right. 5:10. So we normally go till 6. So I'm gonna make a few more squares, and just keep working at this. But if you're just joining us, we're doing a grid drawing. We started from scratch. The easiest thing to find at home right now is a pencil and paper. If you have white paper, a sketchbook is good. If not, office paper or just blank paper like printer, things like that will work. Pencil, ruler, and you can do a grid. If you're just watching us, when this transmission's over, the video is going to remain, and you can look at the beginning and follow through. If you're watching this and you're like, oh, this is great for my child or my students, or you could start this from the beginning once the transmission's over. Okay, so that's why I thought this was a great idea, because you can see the video again. So that's how our classes are going to be from now on until further notice, online. You're welcome to join us from any part of the world. That you can follow our Facebook page, Cultural Alliance of Long Beach, Cultural Alliance of Long Beach at Facebook. We have an Instagram, but our Facebook Live is what we're gonna use for this classes in the meantime. Okay, so I'll continue to draw. Let me focus here. We got 9, just kind of matching squares. So the square and this, I don't know if you can see on there, but making a little square, right? Maybe I should cut the excess of the paper so it does. Okay, so this is what I'll do. Kind of like a viewfinder. Making a little viewfinder. I'm gonna cut the excess paper so you can see what I did. You see this little square? So this is like to cover each square so you can focus. Because if we don't use this, like you can see the square that involves the eye. When I get to that part, this is gonna be really fun, just drawing that eyeball. Can you see that on the camera? When you get to this part, and if you don't have that, your brain tends to focus on the entire image. And a lot of times without this, you may find yourself drawing the wrong image, as I did before. Even though I had this, I just had a problem with the markings initially. But I found a solution, and that's what art is, right? Finding a solution, so finding a solution. As long as you don't freak out and say, oh, that's what art taught me, to focus. And, I'll share a small story while I draw this next square. When I was in college, Cal State Long Beach, I remember in my painting class, I brought my son over. I brought him over to class, and I gave him a canvas to paint on. And this was after class, because there you could use the classrooms as studios. And I remember that I brought him over, and I give him a canvas and some paint so he can paint. There were other artists that were painting there, and my son was just copying what they were doing, right? What we were all doing. So my son steps back from the painting, just copying what we were doing, right? So he steps back from the painting, and he says, "Our paintings are looking great." And I thought, oh, okay, so he's just copying what we're doing and saying, because we encourage each other, there's like, shout out to my professors, I remember, maybe some of you Long Beach guys might remember Mike Daniels, right? At Long Beach City College, he would say that, that we can all learn art, and that, and he would always encourage us. He was amazing. Like, he would always encourage you. Like, he would say that, that we all are artists, and he always words of encouragement. It's hard to say because I don't want to misquote him, but I do remember the feeling I got when he would give you words of courage, that everything was possible, and that he would always give you encouragement. Like, he would never put you down, and I was like, man. But like anything in life, other professors would just wipe out your drawing, right? Like in the life drawing class, I had a few experiences like that, but that was okay. Now I understand. But everyone's different. Everyone got different teaching styles. Okay, so this square. So anyways, my son would say, our paintings are looking great. And then I remember my son once told me, Dad, we're artists, we never give up. Right? So right now, amongst all these things that's going on, all you creative folks out there, and everyone is a creative person, believe it or not. That's something in the likes of my professor that he would tell you to encourage you. We're all creative folks, and we can all like do great, like we never give up. That's the key thing, never giving up. And that's what we're trying to do here at Cal, like we're not, we're doing our best to follow the directions. We're actually following the directions, but at the same time we're not giving up. We have other means, and this is not endangering anybody. This is, I'm here, and you're over there, and you're the comfort of your home, staying safe. So never give up. And things are gonna be better for all of us. This is just another process in this journey in life, and we have to learn the best, right? Like learn our best, do our best to care for each other. The planet. We take for granted so many things, but there's an opportunity that we're taking advantage of today, and share something with you. This is the drawing technique, not that was done a long time ago by a lot of artists, and we're just sharing this with you. And be patient, be patient, it'll come along. Right now it doesn't look like anything or like a person. It's just slowly. So I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 squares. Like a good percentage of them finished. That I still have to add other touches, but I'm gonna work on the next square that covers a little bit of the eyebrow. Actually, let's see. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 squares down. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 squares down. Oh, this is hard. I really want to draw the entire eyeball, but I'm forcing myself to do one tiny square at a time. I really want to do the whole thing, I guess my mind is running too fast. So this is an exercise to slow it down and say, it's okay. One square at a time, right? So how does this apply one day at a time, right? Focus. It's... it's kind of like metaphorical, right? Like one square at a time, one day at a time. It's so true, Let's see. So I'm shading very lightly because now the picture that I'm copying is kind of like a yellowish color, like with those cameras that give you like, I don't know, the sepia thing, this is an old picture, and I want to make I almost feel like this was those cameras that there was black and white photography before there was color, right? And then there was an invention where they would color in they would like literally like color images. So they went in with a brush and colored, and that's what this makes me, or give it like a tint, you know? So they put this yellow filter or tint over, and that's what this makes me think of a black and white image, right? Or early version of color, maybe an early version of color. I mean, it's like, and you can tell because the lips kind of look pinkish and the yellow, you know, so this was probably one of those early color pictures. They were not color photography. They were more like they would color in the pictures at the end. So that's why they have this. Nowadays we got those filters, right, that do that for us, but they had to add the color physically back then. Anyways, that's just a little bit of photography history there. Again, I'm drawing this image of George Washington Carver, who was an inventor, and this inventors changed the world with their hard work and ideas. In this case, George Washington Carver invented ink and soap. You know, another modern inventor is Steve Jobs. You know, the iPhone, everybody knows, right? But you know, this is relevant, right? Like soap, we're still using that, especially in these times, right? Soap to wash our hands constantly and keep ourselves clean. This inventor, George Washington Carver, he invented the soap. You know, a little bit of education here. Thanks to the parents that donated this book, Men of Invention, right? Thanks to the parents that donated this book, and I'm using for reference. Anyway, so I'll continue to draw a few more squares. I'll continue to draw a few more squares here. And it's just a matter of patience, you know, of focusing. I think that's, honestly, for me, it's been I haven't been doing much art myself, but I have, in a sense, like the images that I've been, like the live art that I've done, that's the most recent stuff, you know. Okay, here we go. There we go, right here. Okay, so it's just a matter of getting in the shades. I'm implementing shading more than, but the lines are kind of coming along by default. So that's just wanted to throw that out there to mention that I'm focusing. I'll probably re-emphasize the lines, you know, but it's kind of hard to see the lines with this similar tones. You know, black and white, we don't call it colors. You know, if you black and white are not colors in the art world. There are shades, and they're just shades. You know, darker shade, lighter shade. There's black and white, and in between them are shades. Tones are for colors. This is all art terminology. So this is part of the eyebrow. Let me draw the next square so it can make a little sense. Okay, so the next square. This is kind of coming along pretty good. I just have to focus, and that's what you have to do at home when you do a grid drawing. You can also choose to draw a much more simple image, like like a cartoon character, for the children, or something like that. I chose a portrait because I can do a portrait, and with this technique, it helps a lot. It's more challenging to do it without it, but it's not impossible, right? But this is great for for ratios, so it's a a math lesson. All you parents out there who are homeschooling your children, this is a math lesson as well. You know, absolutely, this is a math lesson. You know, it's definitely a math lesson in regards to ratios. For you can think about it as fractions, whole numbers. You know, half an inch, that's a fraction. 1 inch, that's a, you know. So I'm gonna show you what I have so far, just going square by square. And here is our source, right? Our reference. You know, can you see that right there on the camera? So I made it larger. This is a smaller image, and it's slowly coming along. It's coming along slowly. I'm gonna try to finish at least a few more squares before I take a break, and maybe continue the next time with this project. But I'll read your comments at the end. My daughter's doing a lot of work just managing the camera, and I'm asking too much of her, but I'll read those out, maybe type in the comments. Thank you for watching us. I'm gonna do a few more squares. Let's see, this square right here. That one I don't need to cover it. It's just the same shade. I don't know if you can see there. Can you focus over here? Yes, a little bit. Okay, so I'm pointing at two squares. The original image and then the drawing one. The one that I'm gonna draw. There's nothing to draw on there. There's nothing. There's only thing I see is yellow here, but I don't, you know, I'm doing black and white. So my lightest light is this, and there's, you know, darkest is this, lightest and darkest. So somewhere in between, right? So I already decided that this is my darkest. So this is just like a light shading. There you go. I'm done with that square. I haven't blended in, and now, you know, don't use your hands to blend. If you already did, it's okay. But if you do use your hands to blend, it's a quick fix. But we have oils on our hands, and those oils will sip into the paper, and it'll make the lead of the paper stick to the paper, and it's gonna be hard to erase. So avoid smudging with your hands, okay? If you feel the need to smudge, I would wait till the end, but if you want to do that as we go, use like a Q-tip or they actually have chamois for drawing, little blending chamois you can buy at the art store. But right now, just do it all freehand. Like, don't. That's my advice. I mean, if you already did it, that's okay, and if you want to keep doing that, that's okay. Just know that you're not going to be able to erase as well. And as you notice, I made a mistake earlier, and I had two options: to erase everything and start. But I decided, since I have extra paper, just rearrange the number system, and that solved my problem. Anyway, so that square was just shading. This square, it's similar, but it has a section that runs like this, and this section is actually darker. And I'm gonna actually do that drawing to differentiate. This is the hairline. The hairline. I'm gonna draw it. It'll help me focus on where to emphasize the darker shadows. Okay, good. I see. Now this is the hairline. Hairline comes in here. And let's see. Right here. Okay, so I drew the hairline because I noticed that without that line, I was just creating the same shade, the same darkness, you know. So let's see. See, this background is just dark, you know, and I'm gonna draw I'm gonna extend it. It'll help me focus, you know. There you go. You don't have to do this, you know, if you don't want to, but I like to compare, you know, compare the background versus the front, and it'll help me decide how dark do I want the foreground. Because what the brain is doing, if I leave the background white, then my shadows are gonna change. Art is like a relationship. Even when you wear like a yellow shirt, the light reflected from the color yellow will get to your face. Like if you can put a paper, I don't know if you can see this, like you zoom into my face. Right now you can see the colors on my face, and you know, maybe my hat or whatever, but watch, when I put this paper, when I put it under my chin, it's gonna give me light, right? Do you see that? It's giving me light, you see it? It's making my face lighter? Yes, no? Probably not, because I have a really bright light, but maybe the side. Is it lighting up the side of my face? Look, you see it? It's kind of like I'm putting another light, you know, and that happens with, you know, colors, you know, well, in this case, shades, right? With black and white, the effect they have has to do with what's around them, you know? So find the darkest darks. This is all from my art training. Find the darkest dark and find the lightest light. And I'm already, everything's coming back, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, what's the darkest part? You know, so from the beginning, I'm already thinking of the darkest part. The lightest part here will probably be the eyeballs, maybe the color. Actually, the color's lighter. Then we get into a little bit like the reflections from the eyeball. What else? This circular thing on the back, kind of like this shape. Let's see. Let me do another. Let's see. Okay, let me. I'm just working on the shadows. I want to make a distinction between the shading on the skin versus the shading of the hair. All right, and this image, this part of the image is really tough. It doesn't give me that. It's really. Let's see. Okay, that's this part. Yep. There you go. So this part is this part. Let's see. Yep. So now it's just shading in, drawing in. And you know what? You can use an eraser. Like this part seems like I went a little bit too light. I mean too dark. So I'm gonna take a little bit away. But it's all right. I can always add, right? That's why we use erasers. You know, take away. There we go. Oh, this part is interesting. Wow, this part, I don't know if you can see, but it just looks like one big dark square. But there's a small line, and I'm trying to figure out which one is darkest, and I think I know. But it's very similar. Like the background and this tiny part of the head that in this square, they're almost the same darkness, but not exactly the same. So that means I'm gonna have to make the background darker. You can use the edge of the pencil to make things darker like this. You can see you make broader strokes or scratches like this. See, I made this dark, and that by default made this part lighter. So that means I need to add more. And every square is a relationship to each other. Okay, so let's go ahead and decline that call. We're using a personal phone here for calls. So if you're trying to call me right now, if you're out there watching, I'll call you in a little bit. If not, leave a voicemail. I'll get back to you. Let's see. We have have to keep on shading. Okay, there's a square. Okay, I am here. I haven't reached the eyeballs square part. I'm still on the forehead, and it's taken a long time, because I'm approaching this, one square at a time, and I'm jumping from square to square, in a sense, Right now, what I'm kind of doing is I'm working the edge of the edge of the portrait. The edge of the portrait. There you go. So this one's just kind of like that. So adding little by little. Another way is just to do the line work, but I was so eager to start drawing, and I'm working on the shading as I'm going. What time do we have there, Yada? Okay, 5:36. We still got a few more minutes. Maybe I'll go 10 more minutes or so, and then I'll stop. But you can do this with anything. For the children out there, Yada, can you hand me some of the children's books that are over here so I can show some samples? You don't have to get this complex. Some of the smaller books, yes. You don't have to get that complex with the image. You can just do a cartoon, something small, and the parents, I know you're not used to sitting down with your children. Maybe you do, maybe you're not, but you can use something small, like, can you see that over here? Imagine, here's this little monkey, right? Actually, he's hanging upside down from this Crayola book, right? So this little monkey right here, look, it's very simple, and you can do a grid right here. If your child is smaller, right, you can do a grid that's maybe I don't know, 5 squares by 5 squares, and this would be like a simplified version of this, So this is, or even this pig right here, right, or even the entire cop, if you grid out this, but you may want to, maybe it's something smaller, right? I mean, these are small examples, and you may be able to do this freehand. They're just basic shapes. Can you hand me another one that's like a little more? But yeah, this is for 2 years old, right? For reading, this is for reading. But for drawing, this could be something for maybe like, first grade, maybe even kindergarten, maybe. There's no more books there. There's plenty of books there. Yep, yeah, that one's perfect. So, maybe you say, you know what, I want to draw this little tractor. So you do the same technique here, make a grid on the image itself, and make a grid on the white paper, I chosen to do a portrait, right? Because I don't know, I was attracted to this difference of shadows, and it's kind of like a lot of shading here, and I wanted to get into that. I missed that part of the art, the shading part. And I'll be doing that once I continue the Kobe Bryant drawing on the background. Maybe I should do another square, maybe a couple of more squares, and then take a break. Let's see. But I wanted to show you examples of like images you can do. You can do a landscape, or you can do something simple like I showed you. Like if your child is 5-year-old, 6-year-old, maybe 4-year-old, you can show them. You don't have to make 14 squares. You know, you can make 4 squares. You know, you can make 10 squares. You know, you could choose an image that's more simple. You know, but the idea is the same, and that's why this style is really great for that. You know. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna make this square that has part of the eyebrow, and it's not gonna make sense for now, like, but it will once I piece the other squares. I just want to get in, and this is kind of there's hardly any shadows. Like this photograph or reference I'm using doesn't have that many lines. All right, so I'm kind of using shading to help me zero in on that. I'm gonna skip over to the next square, and this shadow kind of continues all the way to almost the end. Yeah, almost to right here. If you're watching us, you know, I want to send a shout out to everyone watching us live. If you watch for a little bit, you'll come back and watch the rest of the video. You know, thank you for watching. I know you got things to do, you know, at home, maybe watching your children, doing chores, things like that, you know. But you can come back to watch the rest of this video. And this is not going to be done today. I'll probably do another lesson on this and finish it. Throw in your questions there. Also, I want to remind you that tomorrow at 10 a.m., a similar streaming format that we're going to be doing for our music class. You know, we're following the rules. No one's, you know, meeting here at the gallery. You know, it's just our teacher, music teacher, he's going to do it from his home. He's going to teach the music class. You know, so stay tuned. If you follow Cultural Alliance of Long Beach on Facebook, you'll get the notification. 10 a.m. Have your instrument ready, your guitar, your you know, your violin, keyboard, drum, you know, anything, any instrument. And if you don't have an instrument, tune in, you know, because you can also participate. You know, your hands, you can use your hands for, you know, for keeping time, for clapping or snapping your fingers, or, you know, or singing, you know, there'll be singing exercises. Shout out to Rick Bemis. He's our volunteer. I'm trying to get this line right here. Okay, so Rick is our music teacher, and he's going to carry the music class. I'm gonna stop drawing because now I'm like trying to talk and focus, but I want to remind you of the music class. Still recording? Huh?
Do I face you?
Yes, you can focus. So thank you, my daughter, for helping me out. We will be coming back tomorrow morning for our music class. If you're at home and you want to have your guitar ready, it could be electric, acoustic, keyboard, violin, any instrument, you know, really, you know, any instrument. So at 10 a.m. you'll get the notification on Facebook if you follow Cultural Alliance of Long Beach and the event, because this live streams will be broadcast on the event, so you'll get a notification. I want to stop now and kind of show you what I did. Can you see that there? Yeah. So you can see that part. I don't know. Well, as long as you can see it, I see a big reflection with that light. But I did 1, 2, and started the 3rd row of the head, and a lot of the background. I did a lot of the background. So I'm just gonna work from the top down. The reason why I went from the top down is because I didn't want to smudge. If I start on the bottom, then I'll just smudge by, like, you know, the drawing. So I wanted to start from the top up, so I wouldn't smudge over what I did. So that's a reason why I did it that way. I could have went and did all the drawing part, but I was eager to get into the shading. So you can see it's coming along like slowly, right? and there's no discrepancies in the proportion. His head is not going to be wider, it's not going to be longer. It's going to be precise. The ratio is precise. It's a 1/2 inch square, and then it's a 1 square inch. And everything is enlarged by double, double the size. 1/2 inch, 2 1/2 inches is one, right? 1 inch square. So that's what we have here. I'm going to stop here now and remind you to tune in for our music class tomorrow morning. If you never came to our music class, now it's the perfect time, right? I mean, you're attending virtually, like basically you're just watching there. But this is the project. I'll continue this next week. Probably I'll have more done then, and then maybe we'll do other projects. If you are a student who is what do you call it? Like just a student who's always here and you doing a sculpture, keep on working on those, if you can get the materials. If you cannot get the materials, do some drawings. Here are the small samples of some of the work. And don't give up, keep drawing. Don't make the situation stop your creativity. Continue it. We're here to help you. Send us a message if you need help. If you want to continue with the art classes, in music classes, we're going to do that online until further notice. Stay safe out there. Thank you to everyone that watched us live. I do really appreciate you guys for supporting us here. And right now, this is the best we can do in helping to keep everybody safe. So stay in your houses. The comfort of your home, take care of yourselves, take care of your families. This is all gonna pass, and my hopes are that we're gonna be better people, because this is a collective experience that we're all going through in the world. No one in this world is exempt from this health situation, and I don't recall something like this, something similar perhaps, but not at this magnitude. So take care of yourselves, take care of your families. Children, I know it's tough if you're at home. Do as much work as you can from school. Do the drawings, the music. If you can, it'll help you. It'll help you. Keep your mind being creative. And thank you again. Once again, I'm Efren Luna with Art, Music, and Culture. I'm here for the Cultural Alliance of Long Beach. And this is what we're going to be doing, live streaming our classes until further notice. Once again, thank you very much. Stay tuned for our tomorrow's live streaming of our music class. Have a great rest of your day. Take care now.